Sure. Again, keeping in touch with Reboot since I graduated, and it was mostly for, here's some job opportunities that you might be interested. Some are here in San Diego, even though I was living in Kentucky. And I think it was, I want to say August timeframe, I got a phone call from Martha here at Reboot that the state of Michigan was bringing the Reboot program to Michigan, which right away I was excited. I see Reboot advancing, and I see more people and more veterans being able to take this program. She said, would you be interested in talking with Michigan VA about the Reboot program? I said, absolutely. This program has changed my life. Please give them my number, or have them call me later. After we hang up. As soon as we can make the connection, the better. So I think it was the next day I received a phone call from Michigan VA. Discussed it with them over the phone. I think it was about a 30-minute discussion. At the end of that discussion, she said to me, she goes, you know what, I think there's another opportunity that I want to bring to your attention that I think you'd be perfect for. They do a Mich Auto Summit every year where the whole auto industry comes together in Detroit, and they talk about the programs and what they're doing to bring Detroit back to its heyday. And we want to have you apply to be a featured veteran for this opportunity. And it's more of a networking event. And again, Reboot talks about it. Get to those networking events. Get out there. Get your name out there. So I was like, absolutely. So I sent my resume. I sent a 2-minute video. And I can't remember. I said something else. And over the next week and a half, I did 2 phone interviews. And they selected me to be part of that program. So they brought me up to Michigan and brought me and 2 other veterans to the Mich Auto Summit. And it was, like I said, it was a networking thing. And about halfway through, they introduced the 3 of us and read off a short snippet from our resumes and kind of what we were looking for, and said, hey, you know what, this is what the veteran talent brings to the civilian job market that the normal civilian cannot match. Including the leadership side and the long hours and the medical side, because a lot of us come out with medical coverage. So we started making connections. A little bit later on in the day, I had a gentleman come up to me, a great guy, said to me, he goes, I don't have any openings in my company, but I am a private pilot, and reading your resume and seeing the experience that you have as a mechanic, he goes, I know personally I would hire you on the spot if I was in that position to hire somebody. But I would love to make some connections for you with the aviation industry in Michigan. And I, again, being wide, had a few opportunities brought to me, not quite as much where I wanted to be. And finally, he calls me up one day and said, hey, I've got this company that's up in Menominee, Michigan. It's called Enstrom Helicopter Corporation. At that point, I'd never heard of Menominee, Michigan. So I started doing some research. And again, another thing that they teach you about in your interviewing techniques is to research these companies. So I said, yeah, please, make the contact. I'm open to anything. The next day, I received an email from Enstrom saying, you know what, we've looked at your resume and we think you'd be a great fit for our company. We're looking for somebody in a management position. Would you be willing to do a phone interview? Again, being open, I said yes. So I think it was about a week later, I did a phone interview. About 30 minutes or so with the president of the company, the head of HR, and a couple of the other supervisors that I now currently work alongside. And after that 30 minutes, they said, you know what, we're in about 3 days, we're going to make a decision, and we'll let you know, good or bad. And I said, okay, thank you for your time. And I think it was by noon the next day, I had an email asking me to come up and do a face-to-face interview. And where I was at and where they're located was about an 8-hour drive. So they knew the importance of inviting me to come up. And I think it was about a week later I went up, sat down with, again, with the president of the company, the head of HR, and those 2 supervisors as well. Interview lasted, well, the main part of the interview lasted about 30 minutes. And then they took me on about an hour tour of the facility, introduced me to some of the people, the 3 team leads for the departments that I'm in charge of, and then took me to lunch. And they said, we'll let you know in a couple of days. We think everything went well. We just want to do some verifications on some stuff and go from there. I think it was about a day and a half later, they called my references and called and offered me the job.